Let's date forever. Here's your weekly dose of relationship fuel with Sammy and Nathan Yeager. Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're chatting about EFT tapping. What is it? What is it used for and how to do it? The 4E empowerment pathways to body acceptance and improving your morning and evening wellness routines and the power of layering new practices. But before we dive into that, Sammy, what's been fueling you up this week?
I had my first full working week back at work for 2024 last week.
Yep.
And I had a couple of things that really fueled me up. I had a couple of client wins, which is always nice. But also what fueled me up was that I had some quality time with some girlfriends on Friday night. We had a little hot pot night. One of my girlfriends is moving away, so bittersweet. But it was really nice to have some girl time and a little sleepover, and that was just really lovely. Yeah. What about you, Nath? What fueled you up?
We're making some massive headway to a couple of overseas trips this year. So the first one is a real big bucket list item that we've had on our vision board for probably the past 4 or 5 years or something. And we wanted to do this well before then as well, which is to go to Tomorrowland. So we managed to secure tickets for that over the weekend. And then we've just more recently booked another little trip before then as well. So
the wealth and lifestyle part feeling real good.
The future wealth and lifestyle. Yeah, that's it. But the other couple of things that really fueled me up too was that I had a little bit of time tinkering in the garage and playing around with my bikes this weekend too, which is really fun. And we also made some massive humming household changes in our garage and got a whole heap of new shelving to make our garage a much more functional workshop, but also a gym as well. So yeah, making some big headway there.
Which is actually one of our big goals for 2024, to have a highly functioning workshop and gym in our lock-up garage.
Yeah, and still be able to get a car in there easily.
Yes, a humming household for the win.
That's it. But now let's dive into this week's ep.
Today we've got Laine Allen joining us. After an 8-year corporate career as the youngest only female order fulfillment supervisor for an Australian non-for-profit government-funded organisation, Laine decided to leave her corporate identity behind in search of a fulfilling service-based career. Less than 12 months later, Laine is a certified global EFT practitioner and body acceptance coach with her own podcast. She's based in Melbourne, Australia. Welcome to the show, Laine.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Oh, it's really exciting to be chatting to you.
You too, guys. I'm pumped.
What a pivot. What a pivot from order fulfillment to EFT tapping.
I know.
So I know in the bio that you shared with us, you shared a little bit about your mission, but I would really love to hear it in your own words and hear you talk about it. But to start with, what on earth broke the camel's back, or what was the straw? What was the final thing that you're like, I can no longer be an order fulfillment supervisor. I need something more.
I think just the title itself was just too long to No, I think a lot of us went through some heavy shit during COVID, and that was definitely a turning point for a lot of people, including myself. I was so utterly alone in my internal world that it was heavily impacting my external world. Right. So I was running this team of 30 people. All of the other supervisors that I co-worked with were on a different shift to me. I took it on board to work the night shift. My partner was working the day shift as well. And I just found myself pretty much by myself all the time. And it got to a point where I just felt so lonely and I felt like I had nowhere else to go. And my only kind of options were to continue feeling that way or to kind of pull myself up from that kind of environment and just see where I could land, where I could go from there. And I really tapped into the online community space at that point in time, like a lot of us did. And I came across Anna Rose's Self-Love School, which was the kind of turning point for me. And I joined her self-love school. I was in the very first cohort. And one of the things that Anna recommended was reading more, which I was already an avid reader. But I was like, I can definitely add some more books into my mix. And I went into this little op shop one day because that was all that was open at the time, being in Melbourne. And I found this book for $2. It had this woman on the front cover who had like bright pink hair and she was covered in tattoos, and the book was called Radical Self-Love by a woman named Gala Darling. And I was like, oh, she fits into my kind of stereotypical, I know, looks, something that's a little bit different that I'd go for. And I read her book and I was like, oh, I wonder if she's like still around. And I jumped onto Instagram.
Yeah, her book's in a op shop. So
yeah.
Is this current? Is this
I didn't know whether or not she was, still floating around in the universe. And she was hosting what was called The Vortex, which was another online community space that I was like, cool, I'll jump in on that, see what it's like. And that turned into my first ever experience with EFT, or what's known as emotional freedom techniques. It was a 2-hour session of just doing this EFT nonstop. And I was so physically exhausted afterwards. I had to go and have a little lie down, have a little nappy nap. And when I woke up, I was just like, what is this thing that I just tried? So that led me onto the path of doing EFT whilst I was still working at my government job. And I just kind of thought to myself, well, this is something that I could definitely shift away from the corporate world and do something that's a little bit more service-based. And that's how I started to learn about EFT. And yeah, just left my corporate job after that and pursued that kind of career of being in a service-based industry.
Oh, I love this story, and I'm a big fan of Anna's as well. She's woman. What a woman.
Yes.
Go have a stalk. Instagram's her home on the internet, Anna Rose, Self-Love School. But you very, very briefly touched on what EFT is, and Nathan and I have had our own EFT tapping experience during a Tony Robbins event. So we know a little bit about it, but I suspect there's probably listeners to the show, much like yourself, had never heard about this thing before, don't know what it is, even as you've described the words, probably can't even envision what we're talking about. So, Laine, what is EFT?
All right. So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques, or sometimes people refer to it as tapping. And it's really an alternate treatment for physical pain and emotional distress. And so the best kind of analogy I can give it is that if you can imagine yourself, you're on a road trip, and you decide to pull over and you step out of the car and you just look at this view and it's just so beautiful and you're just so in awe. And that's a little bit like what happens when we start to practice EFT or tapping. So if you can kind of like imagine your body as the landscape on this road trip, and there are these highways that are running through it, these are our meridians or our energy systems. So when we're feeling stressed or anxious or nervous about something, it's like having a traffic jam on one of those highways. And what EFT does essentially is it helps it clear the traffic so that it can, flow better. And so by gently tapping on these specific points on your body, what you're doing is you're sending signals to the amygdala, so the part of the brain that controls your stress response. And what you're doing is you're just basically telling it like, hey, we're all good, we're safe, we can let that traffic flow through again. And, this tapping action, what it does is it calms down your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response that often happens when we're pretty stressed out. And so when you're on a road trip, normally like 9 times out of 10, hopefully you're with someone and you're not just cruising along by yourself. You've got somebody else to talk to on that trip, or you're, singing songs at the top of your lung, a little bit of Destiny's Child, whatever floats your boat. And that is the talking part of the EFT. So being able to tap and speak is helping us kind of shift that energy blockage that's happening inside of us, and essentially is just restoring a bit of balance back to your body, so that the next time that you're dwelling on, a specific event, or you're worried about something that's coming up in the future, that intensity is hopefully reduced. So I hope that analogy helps.
Yes. I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I learn by doing. So throwing you a little curveball, can we do a little 60-second something? Can you talk us through something? So listeners, if you're in a cafe, maybe don't do this if you're driving, but if you're out walking, find a spot, like we're going to get a bit weird for a second.
Alrighty.
Especially if you've never done it. So Laine, give us a little rundown.
Cool. So we'll do a little breathing exercise. So if you can just close down your eyes and just take a deep breath in and tell me maybe what capacity you feel like your lungs are working at right now.
Oh, like a 70?
Yeah, I think like 60.
Alrighty, beautiful. So what we're going to start on the side of our hand. You guys can open up your eyes now, and you're going to start tapping on this side of your hand, which is called the karate chop point. Okay, and you're just going to repeat the words after me.
So for being on a audio-only medium, I've got my left hand in a fist and I've got my right two sexy fingers tapping on my left outer side of my, like between my wrist and my pinky finger.
Beautiful. I love that. All right. So you're just going to say, even though I feel like my breathing is restricted right now.
Even though I feel like my breathing is restricted right now.
And it's at a 60 or a 70.
And it's at a 70.
Or a 70.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself anyway.
Love and accept myself anyway.
Even though my breathing feels restricted right now.
Even though my breathing feels restricted right now.
And I'm breathing at a 60 or a 70%.
And I'm breathing at a 70%.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself anyway.
Love and accept myself anyway.
We're going to do it one more time. So even though I feel like my breathing is restricted right now.
Even though I feel like my breathing is restricted right now.
And it's at a 60 or a 70%.
And that it's at a 70%.
I deeply and completely love and accept myself anyway.
Love and accept myself anyway.
Okay, and then we're going to go to the top of the head.
Like the kid game of like rub your stomach, pat your head. Yeah. We're just doing the pat your head part.
Even though my breathing is restricted.
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 I'm going to go to the inner of your eyebrow. My breathing feels so restricted.
My breathing feels so restricted.
And to the side of the eye, it's at a 60 or 70%.
It's at a 70%.
70%.
Under the eye, I want to increase the capacity.
I want to increase the capacity.
Under the nose, I just want to breathe better.
I just want to breathe better.
On the chin, I want to fill my lungs up.
I want to fill my lungs up.
On the collarbone, I want to increase my capacity.
I want to increase my capacity.
I want to be at 100% under the arm.
I want to be at 100%.
All right, take a deep breath in. And just thinking about the percentage now, where do you think that you're at?
Oh, I feel heaps better.
Yeah, like an 80 or a 90. Yeah.
I must admit, that was the first time I've ever done it on a podcast before. So
yeah, with no visual cues.
Yeah.
So if anyone got lost without the visual cues in that exercise, don't overthink it. You've got your two sexy fingers and you're tapping them on various parts of your body while repeating what Laine was giving us the script there for.
Yes.
I don't know if you've called them your sexy fingers before. I don't know. I couldn't think of any other way. Like the two fingers that you salute with, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Your peace sign fingers.
Oh, yeah. That's probably better. Your peace sign fingers. Those two. Or your sexy fingers. Yeah. I don't know.
That's all I'm going to refer to them now as.
Laine, thank you. So you've done some training. You've learned about EFT. Tell us about how it's changed your world, changed your relationship with yourself.
Oh gosh, that's a big question, isn't it? I honestly, I believe that we need to try, and our efforts in trying result in us growing and learning and developing and becoming just better versions of ourselves. And most of the time, a lot of us don't even attempt to do that, don't even try the aspect of trying. And I think that really puts us in a position where when we're not giving other people permission slips to be themselves. And that was something that I struggled with for a really long time. It's just like, I don't know who I am. I've always been this like 6 foot queer, quirky looking girl and never really felt like I fitted into a box. And I think EFT has gifted me that permission that I don't even need to have a box. And it's just gifted me a better relationship with myself, given me a whole lot more confidence. And I think it allows me to show others what's possible for them.
So was it this journey into EFT and tapping that unlocked your interest in diet culture and toxic body image as well? Or was that kind of a separate journey that led you to the place where you are now?
I think it's definitely separate. I didn't realize how much the two would actually cross over until maybe 18 months ago, maybe even a year ago, really, because I always had this idea in my head that I don't want to be part of the body acceptance space or body positivity space, because I'm like, I want to be skinny. I don't want to be one of these girls that, talks about being bigger and whatever, because I'm not going to be that girl, because I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to change myself so much that I just never accepted that part of me. And it's only really become clearer to me that I think that this is very much part of my journey of amalgamating the two of EFT and body acceptance together. And that's been, quite confronting, but it's also been extremely liberating to not feel like I have to contribute to societal norms anymore.
Yeah. This is super interesting. And Nathan and I were actually having a chat on a road trip a couple of days ago. We are currently reading Rachel Rodgers' book, We Should All Be Millionaires. And one of the things that she was sort of sharing was about how she's done a lot of work to change the internal language and the way that she's talking to herself, and that she used to say a lot of quite derogatory, nasty things to herself, about the way she looks, about the way that she shows up, about what she's wearing, about whatever. And she said, she didn't really realize how much that had been impacting every other part of her relationship with herself. And then it sort of sparked this conversation between Nathan and I about how often we each respectively have those types of thoughts or dialogue going on about our own body or how we feel like we're showing up. And it was really interesting because what did you say, Nath? What was your answer? How often do you have those thoughts?
Oh, very rarely, maybe like once a day, if that.
I have it far more than once or twice a day. And I feel like the way that I speak to myself now versus probably 5 years ago is starkly different. But I still think about how I look multiple times a day. I don't think it stops me from doing anything, which in the past maybe it did. But I still have thoughts about, my body, my size, my shape, how clothing fits, that sort of stuff. So I'd love to know a little bit more about your journey and this piece of coming to body acceptance. What's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I kind of touched on earlier with that road trip analogy, EFT is there to really restore that balance to your body's energy. So the next time that you're thinking about past events or future worries or anxieties, hopefully that intensity is decreased, but hopefully to where you're having a more neutral thought, right? Because the whole thing about body positivity is this expectation that you just need to love and accept your body no matter what, right? And so, you imagine if you're someone that can't help but walk past a mirror and think, oh, gross, every time that you see your reflection, maybe after an EFT session, maybe after a few EFT sessions, you might still walk past a mirror and feel like this twinge of discomfort. But the beautiful part is now that you're able to recognize those thoughts and you're able to look at yourself and go, look, even though I don't feel like a hot bitch right now, I'm still worthy. I'm still deserving. I still accept that this is the body that I am in. Or, perhaps you're someone that gets really caught up in, the endless scrolling on Instagram and comparing yourself to, other influencers, and you're feeling, less and less confident. Maybe after an EFT session, when you're scrolling, you realize what you're doing. You realize that comparison is setting in. And rather than scrolling past it and going about your day, you actually decide, you know what, I'm going to stop and I'm going to unfollow this person because I want to stop feeling shitty about myself. And that's the beautiful power about EFT, is that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're never going to have a bad body image day ever again. It just means that you'll understand that it's okay to have days like that. And that's something that I have had to learn throughout this process for myself.
Yeah, I love that you've shared all of that. And I think, like, in my relationship with myself, I think coming to a place of recognizing the duality of like loving and accepting my body while also being okay that I want it to be faster, stronger, leaner, those kinds of things. Like, and I had a real sort of moment of that at the end of last year. Nathan and I did a triathlon together, and a couple of days after the race, I got the official race photographs back, and we were looking through them, and I'm like right on the finish line, and my face is so full of joy, and you can tell that I look exhausted. And my cellulite is probably the most prominent. You can see it like on the fronts of my thighs. And I really had to sit with, like, I am so proud of what that body did in that moment, in that day. And I worked really hard to achieve that and to love it for what it does and provides me and gives me, and the vehicle that I get to carry through life. And just being like, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
And it really, the duality of, like, I love and accept myself, and it's okay that I don't want it to be that way.
Exactly. 100%.
So I would love to know a little bit more about your mission and what you're hoping to do, or what you're planning to do with these two torches of EFT and body acceptance.
Well, for me at the moment, I'm really trying to focus on my own program, which would be an amalgamation of the two. So trying to get women to feel a little bit more liberated in the fact that they don't actually have to subscribe to toxic diet culture and toxic body positivity, and they can really look into their own internal world and really start to utilize EFT for these different pillars that I have kind of focused on, which are called the 4E empowerment pathways. So we look at eating, we look at exercise, we look at emotions, and we look at the environment that we're in as well. And how can we navigate through these different pillars to come to a point of complete and total body acceptance. So that's something that I'm working on in the background at the moment. It'll be a 9-week program, which I'm really looking forward to launching later on in the year. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. And then just a few other bits and pieces that are happening along the way.
And do you work exclusively with women, or that's just who you love to hang out with?
That's who I love to hang out with. I mean, I'm open to working with a lot of people. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's very much my jam because, again, it's been a lived experience for me.
Yeah. So I would love to know, outside of EFT, have you got any other habits or practices that you swear by to keep your own relationship with yourself fueled up?
I am a very strong believer in, taking what you can and throwing away the rest. And for me, my morning routine and my night routine has been something that constantly evolves and changes, because I think that when I look at what I refer to, or what's being referred to as the 8 dimensions of wellness, I don't think that it's feasible to give 100% to each of those 8 dimensions 100% of the time. So being able to, maybe each quarter sit down with myself, or you sit down with yourself and you look at these 8 dimensions and go, right, where am I lacking at the moment? Is it okay that I'm lacking in that area, or is it something that I do want to focus on a little bit more in the next quarter? And being able to sit with myself and see where I am lacking or what I do want to improve. Okay, well, how can I go about introducing that into my morning routine? How can I go about introducing parts of that into my night routine? So my morning and night routine at the moment, my morning routine looks a lot like getting up, getting outside and doing breath work. Then I come in, do some EFT for myself, whatever I'm feeling that morning, and then I'll do some stretching as well. So that's what I refer to as my big 3. And then my evening routine is very wound down. Sometimes I'll go do some yin yoga, have a sleepy tea with some mushroom extract, and just go hang out, read a book in bed, do some journaling. But that, again, is just where I'm at right now. And I think that everyone has the permission to change what they want in their morning and evening routines.
Yeah, I love this, and I think this has been is going to be a bit of a focus area for us this year too. I think my morning routine is terrible, and it very much varies depending on where I'm working that day.
Yeah.
I know that, Sammy, you've got a bit more of a solid kind of morning routine, but our evening routine is pretty
Hot
terrible.
mess, baby.
Yeah.
Hot mess.
It definitely needs some work. But I really like what you were kind of saying there, that it's not about recreating the whole thing. It's about kind of adding one thing, nailing that, and then layering the next thing into that routine to kind of get to the end point that you want to, but not having to do it all at once.
Absolutely. And if it doesn't serve you, then don't keep trying to push through it. If you don't want to do it, if it's not comfortable for you, then stop. I know that, EFT isn't for everyone, just as much as, breath work and stuff like that isn't for other people. I think, again, just picking and choosing what works for you.
And there's such a long list of things, right? The green juice or the ice bath or the silence or the journaling or the visualization or the meditation or the different types of meditation or the different types of yoga. Like, I think this is like sometimes we get like rammed a bit with the like productivity porn of like 5 a.m. club and this fixed routine and like hustle, grind, go every waking minute. Like, that is not loving to me. Like, that is not, if I truly loved myself, is that the life I would be living? No, baby. So, yeah, I think that's really important, and to not fall into routines that aren't serving you as well. Like, because I think sometimes we can develop like habits and practices that once upon a time were serving us, and now we just do them because we've always done them. Like, I know one that you're reassessing. Actually, maybe you just share. Like,
yeah. So, yeah, one that I was reassessing is my coffees throughout the day. So I would always have a coffee when I get home from work. And it was always a nice little sort of practice to sort of wind down and have that little bit of transition time between kind of my work day and then my more social or my evening activities and things like that. But I guess I'm just reassessing the caffeine impact of a coffee at 5 or 6 p.m. So I'm slowly transitioning that one away, and I've moved to decaf.
You sound so sheepish about it. Like, oh no.
Well, this change in habit is about 4 days old. So
yeah,
I
reckon you started talking about it at the end of last year. You're like, I've really got to get this caffeine thing under control.
Yeah, it was end of last year, and so I over the Christmas break, I was like, all right, I'm going to cut down my coffee intake, essentially trying to get down to 1 a day. And I've done pretty well around that. So
I'm very proud because I lasted 4 days this year. That was my resolution. No coffee. Lasted 4 days. And honestly, the headaches and the withdrawals I got, it was crazy.
I've had a day or two of that, and that's even cutting down to 1 cup. Well, that was when I went with no coffee.
It's a drug. Caffeine is a drug.
Yeah.
Like just like nicotine or alcohol or any of the other illegal ones.
Yeah.
And it is. But I think like that habit and ritual that you've got, Nath, about taking time for yourself, sort of half an hour or so that you know, and the ritual of making the coffee and like, which is something that you do really enjoy. That it's about
and sitting down and taking that 20 minutes or so to myself to kind of reflect on the day and unwind. So.
But I think it is a good thing that you're reassessing the caffeine part of that ritual.
That's it.
Says me, who I was like, I got challenged to give up coffee. I think it was last year for 30 days. And I just did it the next day, and then I kept going for months because I was like, I don't really miss it. And I'm back on coffee now, but I prefer to have coffee when I'm like going out and I'm going to sit and I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to not so much as a daily, it's not part of my daily routine. So is there anything else that you've got embedded into your lifestyle or your practice or your routine that really adds fuel to your tank?
I just think that the permission slip to, again, just take what you want, fix it, maneuver it, get rid of it if it doesn't work, giving it a go. Like, I think we spend so much time trying to perfect our every, minute of every day. And the whole piece of that is just being willing to accept and surrender to the universe when things just don't happen the way that we expect them to be. And also just, again, not beating yourself up when things aren't going the way that you want them to, or you're not achieving the mark like you thought that you would.
It's that kind of idea that like suffering comes when something doesn't meet our expectations, right? It's like there's not actually suffering. It's only that you've created an expectation of how you wanted it to be or how you thought it should be, or trying to control other people or other entities to meet your expectations.
Exactly. I think that as humans, we're so ingrained to fear failure, and we don't actually appreciate the journey of what failure brings, which is new learnings and understandings. And the true meaning of failure is like not even trying. And it comes back to that piece about being willing to take that first step or take the next form of action. And again, a lot of people don't even do that.
Yeah. So on that, if somebody's been listening to the show and they're like, do you know what, I have got some pretty unchecked dialogue with myself about myself, what is something that someone can do? Like, is there a practice or a habit that they could start to embed to even just take that first step to being a little bit kinder to themselves and moving a little bit closer to body acceptance?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the first thing you said is perfect, that piece of about awareness, right? Like most of the time we let our mind go completely unchecked and we go about our day talking to ourselves like we're our worst enemy. You know, we're not good enough, we're not worthy enough, we're not smart enough, we're not lovable, we're not this, that, and the other. And once you actually register and go, oh my God, like I can't believe that this is the way that I talk to myself, I wouldn't speak this way about my best friend. I wouldn't speak about my partner in this way. So why do I allow it to be said about myself? And so the first thing is that awareness. The second is perspective, right? Like, okay, well, I do acknowledge that this is the way that I speak about myself. I've got two options here. I can either continue down this path of degrading myself, or I can start to change the way that I talk about myself. And like you were saying earlier, Sammy, about how, you know, the way that you speak to yourself now compared to 5 years ago is starkly different. And I'm sure that that's made a huge change in your life for the better, right? And so having that shift in perspective and really starting to question, well, who is this benefiting and why do I feel this way? A huge part of why I feel so liberated in the body acceptance space is that I started to ask the question, why? Why do I actually want to lose weight? Well, is it because I just want to be more attractive to the world around me so that they'll treat me better? Or is it because I want to be a healthier person so that I can continue living a strong life with my partner? And those are two very different ways to go about the way that you view health. Right.
I was actually thinking about this on my run today. So a girlfriend of mine is doing a half marathon actually quite soon, and the same event they're running doing a 10K option, so which is further than I would currently run. So I'm stretching to do that 10K. So I'm out training a little bit at the moment, and I was thinking about, while running today, all of the things that this training is going to bring me outside of like the health and well-being thing. Is like Nathan and I are going to shoot for Tomorrowland in Europe, in Belgium this year. It's like a 4-day festival. I want to be fit, healthy, energized. I want to carry my luggage. I want to have stamina for that event. Like, I want to party and dance my ass off for days. Like, and then I was thinking about like, I want to, you know, we're going to watch the Mardi Gras parade in a couple of weeks, and I'm like, that's going to be a long day and a long night, and I want to be fit, strong, healthy, high energy for those things. So I think sometimes changing our relationship with why we're exercising, why we're training, and like why we want our body to be different is such a great lens change.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we kind of round out, I know that you've got a new podcast, and I would love to hear a little bit about it, because we're on a podcast chatting to people who listen to podcasts. So tell us about your podcast.
Perfect plug. All right. Well, the podcast is called Wait, There's More, and it's really a dedication to women who have just experienced this whole journey throughout their whole lives, their relationship with their body, essentially. And we're talking about there's somewhat of a level of self-responsibility that we have to look after our health and well-being. There's no denying that. But I think a lot of women tend to forget that there are so many systems that are in place that are literally there to oppress the way that we think and feel about ourselves. You know, the marketing industry and the advertising industry and media and social media, they're all billion-dollar industries that are really keeping us small. And having the Wait There's More podcast is just my way of kind of helping women recognize that it's not all them internally. Like this is a really big fight, and you have to be willing to be a participant in your own life and really shake down those systems through, what you consume, both physically and on a mental level as well. So it's my ode to women to let them know that they're not alone in this journey, and as much as it may feel like that. But I think it's really important to remember that there are lots of systems that are really trying to keep us small.
Yeah. With the show, what is it that you're asking women or inviting women the opportunity to do? Is it about body acceptance, or is it about bringing awareness that, hey, there's 20 billion marketing messages that you're receiving every day. Even if you are talking to yourself positively, some of those are probably going to get through.
Yeah, it's definitely a mix of both. So there's the component of having different guests on there that are experts in their field, because as much as I want to talk to this topic, there are some things that I cannot necessarily speak to. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not familiar with intuitive eating to the extent of some of my peers, as much as it interests me. But being able to have those guests come on and talk about what their messaging is that's in line with the body acceptance piece, the what's referred to as the health at every size piece, or the Size Inclusive Health Australia piece as well. It's just a very big amalgamation of body acceptance, body liberation, and also, again, looking at the different industries that are holding women back, essentially.
Yeah. Hey, we've all got a body, don't we?
Yeah.
We get to have a relationship with that body for forever, so why not make it a good one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just getting that first step.
Yeah, Laine, thank you so much for joining us and being on the Date Forever podcast with us today.
Thank you.
To kind of round this out, I just wanted to say thank you. And to say thank you, we've given 100 days of medication to nursery school children in Ethiopia. We know that if we set kids up for good health and well-being early in life, it can really impact their whole life. So thank you so much for making that possible.
Thank you, guys. You're amazing.
No worries. So, Laine, if people want to connect with you or find your podcast, where can they do that?
Yeah, so you guys can reach out to me via my website, which is EFTLaine.com, or on Instagram, which is EFT.Laine. I also have Facebook, which is Facebook/EFT Laine. And my podcast, as mentioned, is called Wait There's More, which you can find on my website or on Spotify.
Yeah, amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
This episode of Date Forever has been brought to you by Sammy Yeager and the Fueled Up Life Lab. If you want to learn more, come on over to sammyyeager.com, where you can access stacks of resources to help you fuel up your life and relationship. If you've loved this episode, share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an ep. Thanks for joining us and adding fuel to your tank.